Today we're working on this 8x7 foot garage door that has a broken spring. So the homeowner called me and they said the garage door will not go up. And right away I thought about the gearing in the back of the garage door opener that I actually had to replace for them a while back on this garage door opener. But on further inspection, I noticed that my cables at the end here were just hanging here and that the spring was separated into two pieces and it's a single spring garage door. So I got my measurements off of this spring and went online on Amazon just to see if I had any luck finding something that would work for this. There's 4 pieces of information you're gonna need when you're ordering springs. So the dimensions you'll need is obviously the size of the door. You will need your spring length from end of the spring to end of the spring, not counting the ends. So mine are 27 inches. You will need an inside diameter, and these are 2 inch. And then you will need a measurement of the size of the actual wire. So this is 0.237. So that's what these are. I got 2 springs. One says LH for left hand and one says RH for right hand. And these come with instructions obviously, but they come with 2 bars that are used for tightening these things up when I get them mounted. So I'll put a link in the description below this video for these springs in case you need some yourself. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get this rod partially apart so that we can slide our springs on. So I'm going to mark exactly where these pulleys are so that when I put them back together, all my screws and everything tighten right back up where they were. That way everything is even. Because this door was working really nice before this problem happened. So when I get my pulley back on here and I line those up, it should be good. I'm gonna have to take that pulley off too, because I have to slide the bar this way unless I want to take all this off, and I don't. So I'm gonna loosen both pulleys up, slide my bar that way, slide my springs on from this side, and then put everything back together. Okay, now my bar's loose so I can slide it however I need it. It was kind of getting caught a little bit when the divoted part goes through this bearing because those screws that were dug into there, but just put a little bit of force behind it and it slid that way. Now I just got to loosen those pieces of that spring up so that I can bring this out a little bit and slide my old springs off, put my new springs on. All right, now I can pull it out far enough that I can slide this spring off. Oh, I gotta loosen where it was tightened on that bar yet. You never want to do this if you have a spring that's not broke, because this spring will go flying, probably fly apart on you. Now this is loose and ready to be taken off. So we're going to slide this pulley off, hopefully, and we'll just set it right here for now and slide these spring pieces off. And you don't want this bar to go too far because you don't want to compromise your bearing on the other end. All right, the old is off, ready for the new. Just a side note before I forget, if you have a problem sliding that bar through the bearing, you can take a flat file, and just clean some of those burrs off so it slides through a little easier. I didn't have to do that, but just a little tip there. The springs come with very detailed instructions, and make sure you read through all the directions before you start. Because you're dealing with very strong springs, you need to just read all the cautions and warnings because you don't want to get hurt in this process. It's really not that hard, but you definitely need to think things through and have an overview before you start. So we're going to look at everything in the directions from the inside of the garage. So the black spring, which has the end painted black here, will go on the right. So we have to back these grub screws out so it slides on. So we're gonna go up here and put this black set on first. So we just feed it onto this bar. slide it down past the center point. So I'm not exactly sure why they send 2 springs, because I originally only had 1 spring. And if you have 2 springs, you have too much tension. So I'm not really sure why they sent 2. I don't have a good answer for that. Maybe somebody else that does this on a regular basis will know and put it in the comments. So I'm putting my pulleys back where they belong before I tighten that spring up, because the bearings at the end decide exactly where that goes, since that has slots and it can be adjusted. You notice how the original pulley is black and this is black, that way you know the right side's black. So this is how I like to get my cables tight to start with. I take a pipe wrench and just hang it on here for a weight, but I can still manipulate it. And then I just take my cables and I can rotate this pulley bar until I get it where I need it to get this started. It just fits in that little slot right there and it holds the end of that cable. And then it just wraps around in the very first groove. So now that pipe wrench is holding the weight on it so it doesn't come unraveled while I get down here and get this one hooked up. And I can rotate this a little bit if I need to get myself some more slack. I can just rotate it. Rotate it to get that locked in there. Once I do, then I just make sure it's in the track. First groove there. Just like that. Sometimes the other end will come out of the groove, which isn't a big deal. I can just come down here and just spin a little bit, but this time it didn't come out. Once I get to this point, I'm ready to get my spring attached, and I'm just gonna use the old bolts because the new springs didn't come with new bolts, and these are fine anyway. There's nothing wrong with these. They don't get worked too hard, just holding the spring in place. You don't wanna pull this bar any particular direction because you want it as straight as possible. So just make sure it's free to float when you're putting these in place. Make sure your spring is centered as much as possible. And then we're gonna tighten it up. Then you can tighten these up pretty tight. Now at this point is where I replace the pipe wrench with vice grip. That way it keeps my cables where I want them. Lock my vice grip in place. There. Take this off. All right, now the fun part. Twisting this spring to get tension on it. So what they recommend is for every foot of height your door is, you turn the spring 1 complete round. And you want to stand off to the side of it a little bit if you can. And you want to have your grub wrench, whatever fits this, mine's 3/8. You want to have it with you. And you never want to let loose of this while you're twisting. You always tighten torsion springs upward. So right now our grub screws are facing us basically, or kind of down at an angle here. So this is our 0 point. So every round where this comes back to here is 1. So when you're turning this, you make sure you get them good and inserted into those holes, because you do not want them slipping out and this thing flying back to loose. It could bust and hurt you. So there's 1 round right there, okay? And if you get tired while you're doing this, I like to have both of them in here, but you can just let it rest right against there and give your arm a break. I always keep another hand on the other bar just in case, so if this would slip out or something, it wouldn't go flying, I'd catch it. That's 1 round. We're gonna do 7, so you're gonna get a lot of tension on this. You just gotta know that's part of it. 2, 3, 4. Take a little break. It definitely gets harder as you go. 5. As you tighten it, the spring will actually get longer, so you'll see how it's working its way this way. 2 more rounds. You want to stand off to the side of your spring in case for some reason it does fail. it doesn't hit you. A piece of it doesn't anyway. 6. So there's no tension on this bar right now because I'm not attached to it. Only my vice grips is keeping that cable where it should be. Round number 7. Okay, we're there. So now I'm going to take my wrench, tighten these grub screws. Okay, I got them really snug, and you want them really snug. So now I'm going to kind of push the top one up, release my bar. Now, I never just let go real quick. I want to make sure they stay. And I'll even tighten them up a little bit more just so I have a peace of mind. Okay, there we go. Springs in place. And now I'm going to go over and take off my vice grip. Everything is snug, nothing's moving around. I have tension on my cables, which is good. I want that. Now it's time just to see if I can lift it by hand, because I should be able to if this is tensioned right. Oh yeah. Yeah, perfect. It's actually pulling it up even. So I'm going to run my opener down to connect it to the carrier again, and then run it a few times. All right, now I'm going to run my carrier down. All right, let's see how it does. You want to make sure that your cables stay in the groove it's supposed to be in. Everything looks perfect. The door is shut all the way. That cable's still where it should be. The door height is plenty, inch or two above the actual door opening. Well, that's gonna do it for today, guys. Hope you got something out of this. I'll put a link in the description below the video to these springs in case you need to get springs of your own. They offer all different sizes for different size doors and different wire widths and all that stuff. Till next time, guys, good luck with all your projects.